everybody to our webinar on 10 common JSON problems solved. So, so we'll get started here. And here's the protagonist. So I'm Don Murray on the, I guess, the left there.
And I'm Dean Hintz.
Yeah, both of us are a little follically challenged. I'm a little more so than you.
But I'm trying to catch up.
That's right. So you can see some of our hobbies there. I actually don't have shoes that look like that. I do wear black shoes, but not those.
And I only wear brown shoes.
Okay, yeah, well, there you go. So that's who we are. Dean's one of our lead guys on the professional services team, and he specializes in everything XML, JSON, amongst other things.
And coffee.
And coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get to play with basically everything at SAFE, and one of the things that I get excited about is complex data stuff like XML and JSON.
Yeah,
so that's us. So
certainly the web stuff too, the web services.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. An FME server and cloud.
Deploying FME online, so that JSON and XML are certainly key to that.
Yeah. So thank you for coming. Okay. So we're also going to be here. Iris, who's hiding in a back room somewhere, is online as well, and she's here to answer questions. So please, as we go through this, ask as many questions as you want. Just type them into the questions field in the GoToMeeting, and we will get back to you. We will answer them today. Dean and I are going to get back together. I have to go off to another meeting, but we'll be back, and we're going to sit down today in a room and answer them all, probably with Iris's help. And yeah, so ask questions, and
so you won't have to stay up late tonight.
No,
waiting for those
we'll
answers.
Get to them right away. So we're pretty excited about that. So there we go. So here's sort of the plan. Here's all the things we're going to talk about. You'll notice that there's survived is crossed out.
Yeah,
so
I was a bit worried about that, Don.
So
what happened there?
I have no idea. So I'm gonna.
There's no cell reception.
But I am happy that at the end it says wrap up and live Q&A.
So they have to keep us alive at least to the end.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there we go. So you can see we're going to cover. We have an hour. We're going to cover a broad range of topics. So we're not going to dive into great detail on anyone. So we're going to keep it high level, keep it simple. So as you do this yourself, you'll be able to, as you watch, you'll be able to see how we actually pull this off.
And so, then can people get these examples later?
Absolutely. Okay. So all these examples will be made available. And the spreadsheets, the workspaces we build from scratch, they're also in there. So you won't have to rebuild them, but you'll see what we did. So,
right. And
there's a picture of us a few months ago. We're about 105 people right now. So, slow, steady growth.
I think I can see Jason just peeking through the
peeking through the back window there. Yeah, his shadow, yeah. Or maybe, I wondered where he was, because I was wondering maybe he took the picture, but...
Oh,
but
maybe that's it.
Yeah. Maybe that's he views this as food, maybe. So you never quite know. Okay. So, so what do we do at SAFE? Well, we talk about connect, transform, and automate. Connect is this whole idea of connecting to data wherever it is. Could be a file, could be a database, could be a web service, could be a sensor, could be just a URL, could be an FTP site, could anything. that is capable of...
not just a file.
It's not just a file or a database. So just it could be a data stream. So
as long as it's digital, I mean.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if it's paper, we can't do. You'd have to scan it first, and then we could ingest it.
But ultimately liberating your data from silos, from the prison.
Exactly. Wherever your data is, the first thing we focus on is connecting to it. If we can't connect to it, then we really can't help you. But so if there are some data sources out there that we can't connect to that you have, let us know. And we're always adding more connections. Now we're around 340, I'll say.
But is connecting that hard?
Sometimes it is.
No.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's in a proprietary format. Sometimes it's not so hard because it's in XML or JSON. So there's a blog article I'm going on today where I love XML so much, and so now we're at the point where if it's an XML or JSON, it's orders of magnitude easier.
It's a lot easier.
But the data could be anything from spreadsheets. It doesn't have to be spatial. It could be spreadsheets, CSV, any kind of data, raster, liner, doesn't matter. And then the next thing we talk about is transform, and that's, well, now that you've connected with the data, what do you want to do with it? Probably you're not connecting the data for no reason.
Right.
You want to do something with the data, and that something is, how do you want to change the data? What do you want to read? You want to filter it, select subsets? What do you want to do? That's all about the transformation, and that's really where FME really shines. Connecting, a lot of tools do that, not to the breadth of our stuff, but
I think the tough part is really the transform, because that's when the schema, the data models have to be restructured, and we'll even see between JSON, XML or JSON and GIS, you can have completely different data models. So
exactly.
And
you're going to do something really cool at the end there. Yeah. There's a great example of transforming and also bringing multiple data sets together. So you don't just connect to one thing. You can connect to a whole bunch of things, and then output a bunch of things or one thing or whatever you want.
And then once you have these workflows, what can you do with them?
Yeah, you can run them manually if you want, or you could put them on server or cloud or automate them.
That's right.
Or even if you don't have server or cloud, you can have a cron job or a batch script or Windows scheduler or whatever you want. It's all about automation, right? We don't want carbon-based units doing repetitive tasks. They hate that. They're not good at it. Silicon-based units are really good at automation. So that's really in a nutshell.
That's where server and cloud come in.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's safe software. That's kind of what we do. Okay, we have these getting started things. So if you're new to FME, you want to get an idea, a better idea from what we do. We have this FME getting started, and that's you go there. We also have a weekly webinar overview. It's 1 hour, and if you attend that, you'll get a good overview of all our products from desktop, server, and cloud. And we encourage you to do that. Everything's online too. This will be online later. All our webinars are online. We recently had our FMEUC. All the videos there are online. So there's just
cool stuff from that online.
Yeah, I don't know how many videos are up there. I'll guess 50.
Yeah,
maybe
easy.
More. Probably more. Yeah. So lots of great content there.
Yeah. So if you find some of the terminology like feature type and schema and all that a bit new, then if you go through some of that getting started stuff.
And if you have questions, even if you are an FME user and you're about to start something new or you're struggling with something, do reach out to us on support. We pride ourselves as being the best in the industry when it comes to support. So we're not here just when you find a bug with the program. With our FME, we're here to help you solve problems. Okay. So now time for our first poll.
Is that family photo you were talking about?
Yeah, so here it is. Have you used FME with JSON? Please select one. The first answer is yes. I like that. Okay. And the second one is I've used JSON but not with FME. The third one is I've used FME but not JSON. And the fourth one is I haven't used either. So there we go. Okay, so we're going to find out how many people here have not used FME, how many people have used and have not used JSON, and how many people have used. So there we go. 1/4 of you have used both. Okay, and then and again, because well, it's a pretty even split. Whoa. Okay, and then 24% of you used JSON but not with FME. 35% used FME but not JSON, and 14% have not used either. So that says, putting the math together, about 38% have not used FME at this.
Oh, wow, that's some pretty quick math there.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. So thanks for that. Hopefully you'll find this really useful.
Yeah, I think there'll be something for everybody there.
Okay, so just a quick backstory on this. So we're talking about JSON. I'd say if we talk about JSON and XML as being brothers, they're both object-oriented, open standard ways.
Maybe step brothers.
About representing data, and we're seeing them more and more. The whole web services and sensors. When anybody's putting those out, the data that's going back and forth is almost always JSON. If it's not JSON, then we're seeing XML. Yeah, there's some older stuff that'll zing around CSV files or something like that, but our text stream
90%
really
of it
is JSON or XML. With JSON being by far the biggest. There's also databases that support these formats and things like that. Now there are some differences. I will say JSON is simpler. Generally, when you get a JSON data set, it's much simpler than an XML one.
A bit lighter weight. Yeah. It doesn't have as much overhead.
Yeah. It doesn't have schema, so that's a big thing. So we never see JSON being used to represent big, complex data models like AIXM or Inspire, because for those big, complex data models, you really need schema so that you can validate as you're building these big data models that you actually got it right.
Right.
So that's really the.
I think the other difference, Don, is that JSON it it's more difficult to store more complex
Yeah.
structures, like complex geometries.
Yeah.
So for something like 3D buildings, you can store that in CityGML. You'd be hard pressed to try to figure out how to store that in JSON.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
and that we'll see that in a little bit later when we talk about moving data between GIS and JSON.
Yeah. So intro. I mean, really with FME, our goal is to make it easy with JSON and XML. So we have a graphical tool, which you're going to see in a minute. And then we want to make it so that you're focusing on the task at hand. You're rather than just focusing on, how are you going to shred or rip apart or process this JSON.
Sounds kind of violent.
Yeah,
but yeah, we are trying to remove.
But you see,
the fear.
we got all those dark things with JSON. Now we've got these nice flowers.
Yeah, there is light.
So that's what FME's
on the
trying to do.
horizon there.
Exactly. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Trying to remove the fear from dealing with JSON.
Yeah. So the first problem, oh, that's scary, is JSON parsing. So you can see this is a family photo from Stephanie
hide and seek.
and Tiana's playing hide and seek with JSON. So in the hallways of some institute, I'll leave it at that.
I think that's probably where they visit him once a month or so.
That's right. So we're going to just show how simple it is with JSON parsing. So I'll do a demo here. Okay. So there's a couple tips. So one, and we'll talk about this in a minute. Right now, I'm going to go to my FME, and I'm going to grab a JSON file. Now this is a real JSON file that I got from a real sensor. Okay, so I'll drag that in there. Now I always use the text file reader. Sorry. Okay, I go like that, and I always say read whole file at once. Okay, so I probably should set my defaults. You can do that in save as my defaults.
What happens if you don't set that?
I just have to. Then each line, if the JSON is pre-printed, each line will be a separate record, and we don't want that. We just want it as one. So okay, so I've done that. So there we go. Now I have my text line. Now I can log this to see what's going on, and if I want, and I run it, and you're going to see that now I have my JSON. There's my JSON right there. Well, that's kind of raw JSON. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to drop in a JSON flattener. We have this thing called JSON flattener. Okay. And I don't need to know anything other than the field. Well, when I use a text line reader, there's only one field. So I just go like that. I just pick that one file, and now I log it. Very simple. And now I look in my logger, and you can see I have my JSON. Now I see there's a list. So if I look at this events, bracket 34, bracket, I see 35. That tells me that there's a list in there of events, and that's really all that was in here. So now I'm going to simply expose that, okay, and then I'm going to flatten that.
So it's kind of like in XML. You have to think, what do you want to become a feature?
Yeah. Because
you're dealing with these objects.
And now I'm just going to blow the list apart. List exploder.
Wow.
And again, there's only one thing here. There's my events. Okay, so this is the way I always attack JSON. The first thing I do is just flatten it and take a look, and then often there's nested objects within, but not always. Some of the time there's not. And so then if I run this again, you're going to see I have 100 features because it broke out each of those records. And so now you can see, what I have here. I have temperature values, I have CO2, I have
sensor data.
Yeah. So now it's a matter. So now it really is just an FME exercise because my
you just got normal FME features.
Yeah, now I just have features. Now it's no longer a JSON problem. Effectively, now it's an FME problem. So, using the cooking show analogy, what could I do? Well, I'm not going to build this in, it's in the interest of time. But what I did is I put together a really, really simple JSON thing here, and I don't need to save that. And so you'll see that now, this is what we just did here, JSON flattener, list exploder, and now this is the rest. This is some transformation, and I put it on a map.
You're creating, I think, geometry there.
That's right. I noticed that some of the attributes in JSON were latitude and longitude, and now if I run that, I'm going to see this pop up, on a map, and and there we go. Okay. So on map box, map works the wrong way. Yeah. And so that's essentially it. If I scroll it long enough, okay, we'll see that it's coming in. It's just waiting for it's just waiting for the background map to come in. So anyway, there you go. That's the first one there. So
Yeah, that wasn't too hard.
No,
So basically,
that's all there is to parsing.
yeah,
Okay.
there is also a fragmenter if you want to go that way, but
Yeah.
this.
And I think you're a big fragmenter fan.
Yeah.
I do it this way because
I don't know.
you know more. You like writing JSON query, jQuery. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you know jQuery, there's ways of doing that too. But okay, so now back to our slide deck here. Okay, so a couple of tips there. I always, whenever I get a JSON or an XML file, I tend to use a text file reader, read it at once. In the case of JSON, I use a JSON flattener. In the case of XML, I'd use an XML flattener.
Yeah.
And then I can take a look, and really makes it easy to do that. And then you're off to the races, and you're in FME land.
And I'll just mention, and we'll see this later again, that sometimes your data will not necessarily be coming from a file. And so you might use an HTTP fetcher.
That's right. I'll show that.
We'll see that later.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see it later when we do the web services as well as the sensors. That's right. So, but that's a great point. Yeah. Okay. So the next common problem is JSON validation. How do you know that the JSON you're getting is valid, or how do you know that the JSON you're writing is valid? And of course, you want to do that. And again, with FME, we make it very, very easy. And there's another one of the Stephanie's vacation shots in the old
That's
church
right.
in Europe somewhere.
Yeah,
So
the family summer vacation.
So a couple of things on validation. The first thing is that JSON has no schema, so there's only syntax validation. Now there are some efforts out there. If you go look for JSON schema and things like that, there are some, but nothing's really become a standard.
No real traction.
Whereas with XML, there definitely is a standard. So there's only syntax validation, so you can only ensure that the JSON you have is valid. Okay, now with FME, of course, if you're writing JSON and you understand the data model, you know that certain fields must be numeric or are required or things like that, then FME can, of course, do extra validation on data values that are going into the JSON. Yeah, and that's actually one big use of FME. People use it for is QC. So,
exactly, yeah, Don. So you can have testers to check, for example, do you have valid coordinate values before you try to create a point. I'll just mention there was a question that went by, did Vertex Creator replace the 2D point adder? And that is true.
Yeah, if you type 2D point adder, though, it'll pop up. It'll come up. Because we had 2D point adder and 2D point replacer. I think the Vertex Creator.
Yeah, it does both. 2D and 3D.
Yeah. So if you want to produce data and you really want to enforce syntax and schema, then JSON isn't for you. You probably should look at XML. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of tips when you're writing: validate always. Okay, and then if you're having trouble with some JSON data, validate too. Just because somebody tells you it's JSON data or XML data, that doesn't mean it's necessarily. We get lots of bad data sets that are being produced by other people.
The classic one that I get sometimes that we see in support is people generate massive JSON files, and then you end up getting a fragment because it filled up a buffer. It only goes to so many megabytes, and it just ends in the middle. So
So again, for validation, we're going to start with good JSON. Okay, we're going to drop that in here.
So there is such a thing as good JSON.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm going to do this first, get rid of that, and now drop that in here. So we're going to have good JSON, and then we'll take a look at that. And again, yes, now that's set as a default, so that works great. And so I have this JSON here, and again, we could log it if we want, or we can just validate it. So I'll just validate it. Oh, that's not going to work. JSON Validator. There we go. And again, I just connect, and just like the flattener, all I'm doing is specifying the field, and I'm just taking the rest of the result. So if you missed exactly, that flattener went pretty fast, but the only thing I did in the flattener was set that field. Yeah. That's all. I left everything else the same, and that's why I like the flattener so much. So now I'm going to connect a couple of loggers here, and and validated and passed, and we'll run this file here, this good JSON, and we will see that it passed. And if we look inside, we can see, look at the JSON. There's the JSON. And there we go. And so now we'll run it again, but we'll specify the bad JSON, and we'll look at bad JSON here, and we'll run it. And ooh, something went wrong. Well,
is it going to tell us what went wrong?
Well, I hope so. So let's go to the top here, and it tells me that on line 70. So let's open that puppy in, I'm not sure if it's a good thing to call JSON a puppy, but we will. And so it said line 70, if I go back here and have a quick look, line 70, column 13, unexpected character V. One of the following characters was expected. I'm not sure what that means. So let's go back and find line 70 here. And, I went too far. There's line 70. Look at that. It is, in fact, the letter V. And the error is actually at column 13 on line 70.
Yeah.
And it should have been like that.
Should have had a quote in it.
A missing quote. So there you go. So that shows you what the validation is right. And that's really all there is to it. There's no choices on the JSON validator. It's just and there you go. So
one tip there is you notice that when we were scrolling through the log, it might be hard to find the error message if you have a huge amount of JSON.
That's right.
Sometimes what I do is I just use an attribute remover to drop that.
That's right. So let's do that. Just because attribute remover.
And then what you'll find is you just
and then I can
just
drop
see
that
the
text
error.
line. There's only one attribute anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, there's this one here, text line data. And now I say OK. And now when I run it, just as Dean said, I'm going to see that I don't have that big long blob of the JSON. I can see the error. So that's a good trick. Yeah. So there we go.
Okay.
So that's that one. So we're bopping right along here. And now we're going back. So that's JSON validating. So you can see the attribute removers as Dean talked about. So that's a good trick. And now we're on to JSON formatting. Okay, so boy, and there's another family photo. I'm not sure I'd ever want to go on vacation with that family. They go to very dark places. Okay, so anyway.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a bright day.
Yeah.
If we were talking about this in the dark winter months. Then it would be spooky.
He looks like quite the jokester, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's cute, really. Okay, so JSON formatting. Again, this is a really simple, very, very simple thing. And the idea here is, one of the beautiful things about JSON is if you get a new JSON data set you've never seen before, you can make it human. It's easy to inspect just in an editor. Right. And also you can convert back and forth. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so go back to my beloved FME. And this time we're going to go into JSON formatting, and I have some data, and I have some raw JSON. Okay, so let's open raw JSON in Notepad. First, imagining that I'm going, that's not so human readable, because you can see it's one long. Because of course, when you are zinging JSON between web services, that's exactly how you send it.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about the.
But if there was a syntax error in there and you're validating it, it said syntax error in line 1. It's not.
It would say line 1, column 5,682. That's not too useful.
Yeah.
So we're going to drag and drop that into the FME again, and text file. Okay. And the parameter. Look at that. It's a default, so that's all great. Okay. So now I'm going to put a JSON formatter down here. Whoa, I grabbed, see, that's my favorite one. You can tell. I just want to use it all the time. JSON formatter. Okay, connect that there. And again, trivial. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prick that out. There's only one attribute, and I'm going to say pretty print. And notice, let's call this one pretty. Okay, and now we can look at it, or we can just write it. So I'm going to write it. I'm going to write it back out, a JSON file again. I'm going to use our text file writer. And I'm going to not write it there. I'm going to write it here, data, output, and we'll call it pretty.json, just like that. And any parameters to set? Nope, all looks great. Overwrite existing file if it was there. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to connect this here, and I have to be careful because I actually want to write out the attribute pretty, not the original. So if I just did nothing, I would have wrote out the original again.
It's wondering what happened.
And I would wonder what happened. So now I run that, and now I open that in an editor, or maybe this guy's smart enough. No, he's not smart enough.
No, because
I've never opened it yet.
Yeah, I haven't opened it yet.
And so there's pretty. So I'm going to do that. Yep, 79824, and there we go. So now you can see this truly is much easier to understand, right? So that's really great for understand for a person. Now if I, if I can look and validate
that. VOC is got
you can see how beautiful that is.
But how much bigger was it, Don?
It was like twice the size. Good question. It's over twice the size. So you can see why we linearize these things. But now I'm going to we'll go back. So we'll add another JSON formatter. Okay, and we'll connect the output here. I could connect the original, but whatever. And we'll add another writer, add writer. Oh, and this one should be, we'll call it linear. Okay, data output, linear.json. Okay, and now I got to connect this guy here. And I have a red thing there, so that means I have to pick this. And now I'll grab the pretty one just for fun.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to say linearize because I want to linearize it. And now, of course, I got to make sure that I connect the right attribute. In this case, I just skip with the default formatted.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to run this. And now we'll look at linearize. And we're writing both of them now. And so if we look at linear, it's 50K. If we look at the original, it was 53K. So
we
again,
made it even smaller.
We made it smaller by removing all the white space. So it really is packed. They're both equivalent JSON files. So if you send this to a web service or anything that reads JSON, they're both completely valid.
Exactly the same. Just
one of them, the pretty printed one, is easier for humans or carbon-based units to understand. So that is that one. And now back to the show. And so a couple of tips there, like use a pretty print option and when to inspect JSON. So anytime you're inspecting JSON, it's really a big help to use a pretty print. Whereas if you're, are you seeing my screen?
No. You're still.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay.
Right.
But of course, if you're sending them, if you're building a web service or using FME to feed to a web service or using FME as a web service that's serving JSON, then you're going to want to linearize because it's just, if you can easily cut the amount of bytes you're sending over a wire, then why not?
Yeah. So you might use pretty print while you're doing development, and then you've got a production system.
Yeah. Okay.
Switch.
Okay. So there we go. So now I think we're over to you, Dean.
That's right.
So should I make you the presenter?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So let's go here, and I will
show my screen.
I've gone ahead and done it, Don.
Okay.
What's
Stephanie's already done.
Oh, sure you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let me just maximize this thing. Okay. You can see my screen all right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about conversion because, of course, not the whole, as great as JSON is, not the whole world doesn't necessarily speak JSON, so we need to be able to convert between JSON and other formats.
Yeah.
And you may have multiple JSON sources you're trying to convert into a new one. So here's a common problem. Well, if Don, as you mentioned, XML and JSON are brothers, but sometimes they don't always talk as much as they should.
Yeah.
And so here's an example of converting from a fairly complex, one of the most complex XML formats out there, and converting it into JSON. So simplifying it at several different levels.
Okay.
And not very scary at all. Definitely.
Yeah. When I first
the workspace doesn't look too bad. It's only got 2 transformers in it. And so let's have a look at what the input data looks like. So as you can see, there's AXM has scores of different feature types, and each feature type, here are a bunch of airspaces. You can see, look at all these fields.
You can see how complicated this data model
nested
is.
structure, and the geometry itself has got traits within it. It has airspace volumes, so they're actually almost like suspended solids in the air.
Yeah.
And paths with curves in them.
Yeah.
So a fairly complicated format.
Okay, so how do we go to JSON on this?
So really all we're doing is a couple of things.
Okay.
All we're going to need to do is first of all select which feature type we're interested in. So we don't need this huge data model. We're just going to pick one of them.
Yeah.
JSON doesn't support these kind of curves, so we just use a curve stroker.
Sure.
And then we set the coordinates system to 4326 and write it out. And I did choose most of the fields.
Sure.
We can easily have selected a subset of these.
You just click on one. Like you just click on one, hit the delete key. Okay, good.
It'd be fairly easy to do.
Okay, so let's run
so
this.
the output of that's what the output looks like.
And that's
so
that's in JSON.
Yeah, it's in JSON.
Wow.
It's just got one feature
Yeah,
type.
can't even tell. Yeah.
And the geometry is a bit simpler. Still has a bit of a nested structure in it.
Yeah.
But now, why would somebody want to bother doing this? Well,
So you use a
actually,
JSON writer there, I guess. Is that what you use
Yeah.
to make this? So FME comes with a JSON writer, and you just pointed that at the JSON writer, and it basically just looked after everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to. In this case, you didn't specify, exactly what the JSON looks like.
I just said I just want some JSON.
That's right. Perfect. And
Preserve,
the
preserve
geometry.
what you can.
And put the geometry format. Use GeoJSON as a geometry for the geometries.
Yeah.
So there we go. Okay, that's great.
And just to prove that it's JSON, we can actually look at that
Sure.
the output.
Yeah.
Under conversion here
Yeah.
in our favorite text editor.
Notepad++. There we go. And yeah, that looks like JSON.
There's our JSON.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. So what's
that's
next?
one.
That's simple.
So next we're going to look at another direction. So we can go from basically anything we support to JSON.
Yeah.
So 300 plus formats, and
Yeah.
then we can also go the other way. So from JSON to, let's say, KML.
Right. So where did you get this JSON from?
Oh, let's have a look. Yeah, this comes from some open data stuff that the city of Vancouver has.
Okay.
So let's just pull that up.
So this is so basically this is reading from. So you can go to their website, I imagine, right?
Yeah. So let's have a look here. Yeah, let me just pull that up. So they have a pretty cool website here, the data catalog of all of this data that they have shared, and you can notice that they do have a little bit of JSON, but clearly not enough.
That's
so,
right.
So here's all these Excel
Yeah.
and CSV
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we'll look at that, reading the Excel stuff later.
Yeah.
Right now, we are going to take a couple of these JSON and convert them so we
Okay.
can visualize them.
Okay. So let's take a look
HTML.
at your workspace, and there's so you're reading directly from you're reading directly from an FTP site.
That's right.
So you're not copying it first to your folder.
No, there's
Okay.
no download.
So that means every time you run this workspace, you're getting the latest and greatest stuff from.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another aspect of FME, is you're able to read directly from the web.
Yeah, you can
So,
see the
yeah.
FTP link there. So
That's
it's
right,
pulling it
and
straight
so
out.
HTTP would also work if I had an HTTP link. That we'll see that a little later with the sensors, because again, to FME, this whole idea of connect. Once we've connected, the rest of FME doesn't care or even know whether, and it doesn't matter. It's just data that's streaming in. So
now the previous example we were converting to JSON, and I should really mention that this is an actual use case where a customer is using that for like an app, so that people on an iPad can visualize this complex XML.
Yeah.
Here's a case where maybe you've got a customer that doesn't read, doesn't want JSON. They want something they can display on their desktop, let's say KML.
That's right. And so here you've done a little bit of transformation using our transformers to make the KML look.
Yeah, this is kind of a nod. We're going to talk a little more about transformation later, but just for the sake of discussion, we're doing some restructuring of the building up some of the fields that KML needs. And the main thing here, the goal of this whole data set is we're looking, let's say you want to come to Vancouver and learn more about JSON and XML and visit the safe office. You want a place to stay. This will tell you whether there's minor, major, or moderate problems with different rental housing in Vancouver. And maybe
sightings of JSON.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that,
so have you run this yet, or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and run it.
Okay.
So you see it'll go through and it'll filter.
Yeah, so we'd be pulling down from the website, like reading it from the FTP site. And is it done already?
Yeah, so there's like 130 major problems, so we'll just pull that up.
Let's go to there it is, Google Earth.
There it is. So we'll zoom in.
Yeah, it zooms into
Vancouver.
Yeah.
And you can see we've got these black X's for the more severe problems.
Places. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and we can click in and see, where.
So there we've got major problems, I guess, at U Street.
That's right. So well, that was simple.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So, and again, in that case, you did use the JSON reader to directly read it, and so that's good. So that was another.
And if I here, I'll just show you what So here's what the rental there's what the actual JSON looks like.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Yeah.
Down,
That came from the city of Vancouver. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
And then you can actually click on that link in the KML, and you can see the actual problems that are listed associated with that address.
And it looks like they're. And if that doesn't come up, well, we're not responsible for that site, basically.
Site.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's just go. Yeah. We won't
here.
wait for that. We believe you. Yeah. Okay. So what's the next thing? So that's JSON to KML. So again, a nice little workspace there, but that shows you some of the transformation. So Dean just didn't go directly from JSON to KML doing nothing. He added value to add the black X's.
A bit of styling.
A bit of styling to visually communicate.
Because JSON itself, again, that's a pretty big difference between
right.
JSON and KML. It doesn't really have any style.
No, it just has the date. Yeah. Leaves it as an exercise for this. So there we go. That's that one. Good. Okay, so, GIS and JSON.
So this is more of a discussion point because, in the interest of time, I've got another demo in a minute which relates to some of these issues. But I just wanted to cover off some of the issues or reasons why you would go between JSON and GIS and some of the challenges there.
Yeah.
So clearly, FME does give you a lot of support in terms of converting between GIS and JSON with all of our format support. Yeah. And as
we call them formats, but they're formats is kind of whatever. Yeah, it's data sources kind of thing. Yeah.
And as Don, as you mentioned before, JSON has this nested object model.
Yeah.
And so being able to take that apart, as we've seen, explode that list structure, flatten it out. So that we can map it into more of a relational or flat table structure common in GIS. So that's something that we see a lot of.
Yeah.
And in the exam example, I had to simplify the geometry, stroke the arcs, restructure attributes. So that's something that we see quite a bit of.
Yeah. And then we talked about automation and building JSON web services, which are going to show a little later, as well as again pulling data from JSON web services to add things to existing GIS web services, because that's really, this whole world of web services really enables you to mash up. You hear the term mash up, and that doesn't necessarily mean visually, but just pulling different web services together to create, to take the best from all these web services and create something new, give different views of all your data. That's really what, web services is all about, and it's just a bunch of JSON zinging all over the place to do that. So.
Now this thing decided to.
Okay.
Vancouver website.
Okay. So let's see. So what are you going to do here for us?
Well, I just to highlight the point that not only can you bring in JSON into your GIS so that you actually can have, let's say, more live current content from the web.
Yeah.
You can also take your GIS data, whatever you've got in SQL Server, SDE, and build JSON web services on top of that.
Perfect. Okay. Time for a poll question. What's the scariest thing you have to do with JSON? And that's actually one of the family photo of Tiana and Stephanie with that and what if that's Jason without his mask on? Maybe he was an older brother. I always thought he was a younger brother. But anyway, okay, so let's see the poll. So select one or more of the following: parse and/or read, convert and/or transform. Web services, so maybe you're starting to work with web services a lot. You need to be able to easily work with that JSON data there. Sensors. So you're working with sensors and you want to work with those, or JSON doesn't scare me.
So it's all easy.
It's all easy. So those are your choices there. And 20% JSON doesn't scare them. So there we go. So again, a pretty even split here. So 33% parse or read, 42% convert and/or transform. Oh, and look at web services. Half of the people
shot up there.
Yeah. Web services are very, very exciting. And sensors, we're seeing more and more sensors, but still clearly, a lot of people aren't having to deal with those at this point. Okay. But they look a lot like web services, to be honest. And then JSON doesn't scare me. So there we go. So thanks for that. So now we're on to problem number 6. So GeoJSON and EsriJSON. So
what are all these different? So
of course there's JSON, and then which is just your bare bones JSON. And what GeoJSON did is they added sort of primitives, I guess you could call them, or common ways to work with spatial or geography within or geometry within JSON. And then EsriJSON. Esri, as everybody knows, is the biggest GIS company in the world, and they have added ways of storing geometry and common things within JSON as well. And that's one of the beautiful things about JSON, right? Is you can just make whatever JSON you want, and then what they did is they said, well, here's what we're going to always do it this way.
So they have an Esri convention.
So they kind of made that, a profile. Yeah, that's a good word. So yeah, so what are you going to do here?
Well, okay, just the point being that with FME working so good with all the different formats, we also support all these major JSON profiles, and so you can easily have FME to enable you to consume an ArcGIS feature service.
Yeah. And
what that does is it streams EsriJSON. So I'll show an example in a second where I'm consuming EsriJSON and then converting it to something else. And just in the same way, we could easily take other data, convert it to EsriJSON, and then use that to upload something to an Arc server. Let's say you needed a clipping polygon or something. We could, or you had an event at a series of locations, you could upload that. And then finally, you could convert, build new web services based on feature services. So without further ado, let me just jump in there and show you that example.
Sounds great.
So this is just a quick example where we've got data from a feature service that we want to convert. I'll just show you what that data looks like. It looks like, your typical JSON.
Yep.
In this case, we've got fields and geometries. And,
beautiful.
Instead of having an actual file that we're reading, what we do is we build up a transaction here. We build up a query that we send using the HTTP fetcher. That essentially is a REST call to the Arc feature service.
Right,
now,
right.
we do have an ArcGIS Online reader, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do this for
ArcGIS Online. Yeah.
But for, let's say, an internal or
Yeah,
a private
yeah.
feature service, we can do the REST call. So,
Sure. So that's
this
just sending
basically does a get.
Yeah. And then you simply, there you go.
Based on that URL.
Yeah.
And then
and now we're back to parsing JSON.
Yeah.
And what you did is you used the JSON fragmenter. What I probably would have done is use the JSON flattener followed by a list exploder. But
there's a specific reason why I did use the fragmenter here, and the reason is I'll show you in a second. Because if you flatten the whole thing, this wouldn't work.
Yeah.
The reason why I didn't want to flatten is because I wanted to preserve the geometry. So I actually extract the attributes in the geometry here.
There you go. Because now you can use the geometry extractor later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
geometry
now I flatten. Your friend the flattener, I don't forget
I love the
about him.
flattener.
Yeah, so we do get to him. But now the nifty thing here is I use the geometry replacer to read the EsriJSON from that geometry.
And turn it into your feature geometry.
And turn it into feature geometry, yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
So ultimately then, I convert it over to GML, I could just as easily write it directly to SDE. I happen to be writing to a MarkLogic database, but it could be any database.
That's right. That's right.
And so the other neat thing to note about this workspace is I'm reading from a web service, which is an Arc feature service, and I'm writing to a web service using a REST call. So it's a REST call at either end. There are no files or anything.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Okay.
So back to.
Okay.
So
there we go.
Workspace now. Web services. Everybody seems to be kind of curious about this.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So
web services are everywhere. So you're going to show
up this one.
The world is web services now, and so you're going to show what you've done here.
Let's do. Yeah, I can start off with this one.
Okay. Okay.
So what's going on here, Don?
Well, this one is a demo showing live streaming data in JSON coming into FME, showing a number of things in the Bay Area. We have buses, so you'll see the buses moving. So these are live feeds. Every once in a while, you'll see a bus move. You see planes moving, and you see ships. And so all these various sources are coming into FME, and FME is merely stylizing them and then streaming them back onto.
Where is the JSON going on in here?
There we go. The JSON is the data sources from each of these. That's right. That's right. So there you go. So just an example of some of the things you can do with FME, and of course this is on FME this is on FMEpedia, so you can grab this demo, workspaces and everything, and then use it as a starting point for yourself. So that's just one thing. So yeah. So okay, so what's up next? And again, this is just showing some of the things you can do with FME and web services. So I think there's also a Twitter one. Weren't you gonna look at the Twitter one?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So this is the Twitter one.
Yeah, and if you scroll, this is a blog that Stuart wrote, very good blog, shows a number of ways to do it, and then at the end he rebuilds it using FME in one workspace.
Where's the live?
It's down near the bottom. Yeah. Up. Okay, it's right there. Oh, exactly the same example. Yeah,
this guy here?
That's the guy there. Yeah. And this is it just in...
there we go.
Yeah.
And so this is some kind of a heat map?
Yeah, this is showing the live, and this is live tweets coming from Twitter. So this one is, what are people tweeting about right now? And it's going into FME server. FME server is consuming this Twitter stream and showing where all the tweets are going. No surprise, there's a lot of tweets going on in Brazil right now, and Germany's probably, they're sleeping nice and calmly.
I think Brazil's looking a little red there.
Yeah.
So Jason's not the only one.
And you can see just various places where there's lots of activity with Twitter.
So there's not any particular topic.
No,
just Twitter.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
So there's
but
tons of
only
data.
the ones that had geolocation. The tweets that weren't geotagged we threw away.
Now, this is not using some kind of JSON transaction, or is this just the data stream?
Data streaming. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another thing. Just to give you an idea of the volumes that we can handle with these these web services. And
then I wanted to just show you this GitHub thing, and the neat thing here is that this is actually a data store for JSON online, and GitHub is normally used for things like storing code and version control on code projects. But there's a neat project here where basically they took all of this data and they upload this data onto basically using FME to read from Oracle, convert it to JSON, and upload it onto this web service.
And so now you can grab the link, and there it is. You can actually view the data, the JSON data, right within the web service. If you grabbed one of those links and pasted it into the FME visualizer or pasted it into the FME workspace, you'd be able to read that JSON live.
I can click raw, and there's the JSON.
There's the JSON, and so we could easily just consume it. So good. So that's
all right. Now I think we're moving right along to one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, sensors. So I have a sensor here, so we'll get started. Okay, I think it's going to go. Oh, you can just click now. No, it's got to go over to me. I got to take.
Somebody's got to move you over.
That's right. So I got to take control again here. Okay. Oh, there we go. I've been given control. So now I go back over here and slideshow from current slide. There we go. And so I have one of these sensors sitting on my desk. It's it's an alarm sensor, and there's a picture of it there underneath the thing. And what I have is a sensor that plugs into an Android phone, and you can get a whole bunch of sensors. Right now I have CO2, I have temperature, humidity, a whole bunch of things. And the device for this sensor I'm sitting on my desktop is measured in $100. And so we're starting to see these sensors deployed all over the place. And the other picture there is simply a sensor I have in my house, which is a NetAtmo. And again, both of these have REST APIs. Both of these stream back JSON, and we're going to focus on the Valarm one here. Okay, whoops. Okay, so I got a little demo I'm going to do here just to show how easy it is to consume this. Okay, so we'll go back over to FME here. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. Okay, FME, there it is, and get rid of this. Okay, no. Okay, and what I have is in here, I have a HTTP link, and this link is hitting the sensor server, so I can read this sensor at any time. So I simply open this in Chrome. So here's my Chrome, and I paste this in here, okay? And what am I going to get back? I'm going to get back JSON. This is the JSON from this simple device. So to read this device, again, is very, very trivial. I simply go to my FME, okay, and I add a reader, and if you've probably guessed it, text file. But in this case, I actually paste in the HTTP link. So there's HTTPS. The value, I got that value from Valarm administration panel. I went and logged in. Of course, again, I always say read whole file at once, and I say OK. And again, what's happening here is, this is exactly, we've been here before, so I won't go through it again, but I'll run it, and you'll see that this is just JSON. I would flatten it and everything like that. Okay.
So every time you run this, you're getting the latest.
It's actually pulling data from the server. That's right. Now, if I publish this workspace, so I have another workspace here, which I will show you. And this workspace I can run as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, what I did is I said, well, let's do some transformation and test when the CO2 value is greater than 3,000. Then I'm going to use more capabilities of FME to send a Twitter SMS. Now we won't go through that. How do you set up Twilio? But you can see using that is very simple, and I'm able to do it in this very simple workspace. And if I run this live like this, now it's just going to pull the device, and you'll see the value of my CO2 here is 650. So I'll give this to you, Dean, and I'll get you to breathe on it. Okay, while you're doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, Dean's a very heavy breather. So
I'm actually simulating if Jason was getting...
and I'm going to show my cell phone here.
If Jason was getting too close, then you might, CO2 level
Well,
might
actually,
spike.
Jason's the heavy breather. That's a good point. Jason's a very heavy breather. And I'm going to then show you my... So now you should see my screen here. And if Dean keeps breathing heavy...
Hyperventilate.
We should get some messages coming in. And look at this. We're getting some messages come on my phone. Hi, CO2 in Don's office. Tell him to stop breathing heavy. Well, it's actually he should turn around because Jason's there. And so, yeah. And so what happened was I just simply published that workspace to our FME server, and then our FME server is push the information from the Valarm every 10 seconds. That Valarm server just pushes the information to our workspace, and that's all there is to it. And so that workspace. Now, if I ran that workspace again, keep breathing there, Dean. If I run this workspace, last time it was 650. Dean's, he's playing the role of Jason right now. If I run it again, that's right. You'll see that the value of that CO2 is in fact much higher. It's 6,815. And if I go back to my main screen there, you would see that I'm getting these text messages coming in fast and furious. So
at some point somebody's going to pass out.
So again, reading the sensor is the easy part, right? It's like, like what do I want to do with the sensor? That's just an FME thing. But the actual consuming of the web services in the sensor was the easy part.
Yeah,
and then of course then you get crazy and you just have fun.
Once it's an FME, then you can do all the cool things that FME can do, like figure out where locations are. Yeah. Is JSON getting too close? Maybe you have a geofence, and if he gets within a certain range of you, then you get a text message on your phone. Look out, Jason's on the way. Yeah.
So that's sensor. So really, it's just a different. Once you connect to it, it's just all about connect, and then you're working with sensor. So now, what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about. I think 9 and 10 you've sort of combined together, haven't you?
Yeah. So if I can be presenter again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm combining the last two because we're sort of on the home stretch here.
Yeah, I think
I am.
Now I think you're the presenter.
Yeah. So going back to some of that live Vancouver data, let's hope it's fairly live.
Yeah.
There's tons of spreadsheets out there. So talking about integrating all these data sources that people have.
Yeah.
With over to JSON.
Yeah.
So how can we build some kind of value-added web services? And at the same time, we're also going to look at data transformation, another example of transformation.
Good.
So let me just pop over to the example. So kind of building on the web services idea, but
but now you're going to be serving JSON out, which is interesting.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to build a data streaming service.
So it'll cover both
FME
directions.
server.
So that's great.
So just in terms of the transformation side and reading the spreadsheets, I've got all of these spreadsheets here, and these are going to. I have local copies, but the workspace is actually reading directly from that server, from the FTP site, And actually, our goal here with this exercise is we kind of feel that Jason is kind of misunderstood.
Yeah.
And really, he's just very hungry. So if we
and he
keep
likes
him
to
well
eat,
fed,
right? And so I think we're gonna look for places that serve meat, aren't we?
yeah. You know, if we try to give him too much,
He doesn't like veg. We know
yeah,
that.
veg, then he's going to probably get upset, and we'll
Yeah.
still be running.
That's right. So we're gonna give him.
If we throw him enough meat, I think we'll slow him down.
Okay. So again, I think you're using
And then,
some of the samples. So you're using a number of Excel spreadsheets from the city of Vancouver that have something to do with food. So what do you have there? You have
I've got community gardens. That I don't know if that's going to be very helpful.
well, you never know.
Because this is going to be mostly fruit. I've got water just in case somebody gets thirsty.
Well, yeah,
And then I've got the
thirsty.
vendors here.
That's right. So yeah, so he might want, after he has a big burger or something, he might want to go for a glass of beer or wine or something.
Yeah.
You never know, and probably that would be a good thing.
And one thing I just wanted to point out is that when I added these data sets, I knew there was this feature, but it automatically just picked up
for that.
that it got an X and Y lat long. So I didn't even have to have a geometry adder there.
Where's the, okay, good.
And then I do have a bunch of filtering here, and
Yeah.
the main thing is that's going to happen on server is we can choose which kind of food we want.
Right. So you set this up to so yeah, because
Pizza,
that's
sandwiches,
right. Yeah, because
apples.
maybe he likes pizza. Who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, we really don't know. We're just going to give him this tool so he can find out. You know.
So let's go ahead and run this thing.
Okay, so you're going to run that, and it's basically going to read those data sets. Now these ones are on your works.
No, these are all FTP links.
Okay, they're all.
Yeah.
So again, you're reading the live data directly from the city of Vancouver.
Yeah.
So you're getting. So this is really like live. Like this is the latest and greatest.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's
So
surprising how often they update that data. I'm always amazed. It's like daily, it seems. Okay.
So we can look at the JSON that came back, this
Yeah.
feed.json file here.
Yeah.
And we can see that this is all meat. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got Philly cheesesteak, etc.
Yeah.
And if we actually want to see what this looks like,
Yeah.
I thought a cool way to visualize this is not. I mean, we all love Data Inspector,
Oh, absolutely.
but I also one of the key uses of JSON, of course, is as a web client. And this is just straight up open layers.
Right.
And
And this data was coming directly. So you publish that workspace to server. So then anytime this workspace, when you view this, it's running that workspace. The workspace is streaming back JSON. And because because open layers understand JSON, it just appears on the map.
Yeah.
So could you show us the source data there?
Sure.
Oh, your machine's kind of, yeah. Dean likes to bring his machine to a complete standstill. So I think he did.
No, it'll come back. But
Okay.
what do you want to see?
I just wanted to just to show people where the call was to FME server.
Oh,
to that
yeah.
Because you showed that workspace that did JSON. So now if we show that workspace being called, you showed the JSON.
This is the actual JavaScript,
Yeah.
and there's where there's where I call the workspace.
Yeah. So again, when you download this webinar, you're going to get all this JavaScript. So if you wanted to put your own JSON, if you had a workspace that streamed JSON, you would be able to just paste that in there, and away you would go. So how did you get that URL, Dean? I think that's the only missing part.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I just went into I published the workspace to the data streaming service.
Yeah. Then you went to
and then you go into configure.
and then show
developer information.
And there's
so here you can see all the different choices.
Yeah, but there's the direct URL that you
And there's the
pasted
direct
right,
URL
right
right
into.
there.
Yep,
Yeah.
So
So I can take that URL and go into Mozilla Firefox because it just doesn't auto open for me.
right, because you haven't
and-
set the thing. Yeah.
And then I can paste that in and actually get
Okay.
that data.
Good. So so if you paste that in there and hit enter, now you're going to see what is streamed back. And of course, Open Layers just understands JSON. And that's really, again, the beautiful thing about JSON is we didn't have to tell Open Layers what we were giving it. It just knows how to do JSON, and it understands. We had to build the geometry in a certain way, probably well-known text, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're
And,
assuming hot dogs qualify as meat.
Well, yeah. I mean, some people, we wouldn't want to give them a veggie dog, but anyway. Okay, so let's go back to our slides.
Yeah. So that's,
Okay, so that's great. So that shows how to.
there's
serve
that
JSON.
URL again.
Perfect.
bottom there.
Perfect. That's fantastic.
So what's coming
And,
up, Don?
Yeah, so there's some training. So if you want to learn more about FME, we have training on July 22nd to 23rd, and that's free training. It's instructor-led. It's online. You just show up. All you need is a computer, but we're actually set up an Amazon virtual machine, so nothing's going to be put on your machine. You just need to be able to see the internet. And the similar thing on the FME server. Again, we spin up all the Amazon machines. Right. It's completely free.
You don't have to spend
instructor-led, so you'll be able to answer questions. So it's not you do it online to talking to some machine. You're talking to a real person. And that's good. And there's also, I think, a couple of webinars. And our next webinars are 5 tips to become an Esri Geodata power user and 7 ways to unlock the power of GE Small World. And that's on August 6th, and the Esri one's on July 23rd. And Mark Stokes and Robin Rennie are going to do the one on July 23rd. And that show off Mark Stokes is again on August 6th. So it's a back-to-back billing of Mark Stokes. He's longtime safer, and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to him talk about those with Steve McCabe on GE Small World. So yeah, so there we go. So yeah, so again, we don't have time to we're right on 9 o'clock exactly. So but we will leave the thing running even though we've signed off. Ask questions. Dean and I are going to sit down and get back to you with all of them. And yeah, so thanks.
Somebody did ask, is Service Pack 2 stable and available for users? Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Service Pack 3 is out now, isn't it? Oh, Service Pack 3 is out next month.
Yeah. No, Service Pack 2 is the latest.
Absolutely. So you always use the latest and greatest. And so good. So I think that's, so thanks, Dean.
Yeah, thanks, Don.
Is that it, or?
I think we got
okay,
contact there.
And there's our contact info. And so please, again, contact us at any time. Use our support line. Send us email.
Don't be scared of your JSON.
Support should be there at support@safe.com.
Yeah. Or there's a URL. There's a web form there.
That's right.
Either one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And and there's our emails too. So reach out to us. And yeah. So thank you so much, and thank you, Dean. It's always fun.